Shall we start? Okay, good morning, all the participants. So welcome to this second day, first session on faculty development program on quality education through OBE. So morning session, Dr. A. Rajnikant, the professor and head of department of CSE, Vardhaman College of Engineering. So he's going to take a session on Bloom's taxonomy, digital Blooms. Over to Rajnikant. Please proceed.
So thank you very much, sir. Thank you for introducing me. Good morning, one and all. Today, for the next 1.5 hours, I will be discussing on the Bloom's taxonomy and the digital Blooms. I will be correlating the basic Bloom's taxonomy with the digital Blooms. So beginning with my major session objectives are, by the end of this session, the participants will be able to apply the Bloom's taxonomy levels for defining their course outcomes. As well, the participants are able to apply the digital Bloom's taxonomy to map their learning outcomes to use of prescribed digital tools. So moving further, before understanding the Bloom's taxonomy, before understanding the digital Blooms, as a teacher, we always need to question ourselves. The very first question is, what do I already know? Whenever we go for a class, whenever we go for a session, whenever we want to teach some topic, the very first question that we need to question ourselves is, what do I already know? The second question is, what do I not know? When a session is planned to be delivered to students, what exactly we do not know, that a clarity should be there for us as a teacher. And the third question is, what would I like to know? So these are the three different questions. As a teacher, we need to question ourselves before we go for a session, before we teach a topic, before actually we go for a class. Moving on, whenever we as a teacher want to go for a class, want to take a session, in the beginning, we need to understand the learners. For understanding the learners, the first thing we need to know is what exactly they know. What do they know, feel, and learn? We need to establish a connection with the learners. So we need to know the learning level of that particular learner. So whatever the topic which we plan to teach, we need to see whether the learner has some prerequisite knowledge of the particular topic and what is their learning attitude. So we need to have a clarity. The second question is, how can I engage my students in a way that is meaningful for them? So here it says, when we go for the class, the students are there, they have some prerequisite knowledge, we have an understanding of their learning levels. But how do we see that our classroom audibility level improves? How do we see that more number of students understands, engages in the topic that which we are teaching? And the third question is, what are the most effective strategies to promote learning? So now when we go for a class, we always started speaking about active learning instead of passive learning. So when we say an active learning, we need to see that the students actually engage in our class. The students engage in the topic. The students brainstorm among themselves. And for this, there are a lot of strategies available. So as a teacher, we need to select some classroom strategies which are going to help us in delivering the topic effectively. So the first two slides, as a teacher, gives us a clarity before actually we go for a session. First is understanding ourselves. The second one is understanding the learners whom we are going to teach. So moving on, understanding the current situation. For the last 4 months, we are all experiencing the COVID pandemic situation. And as a teacher, if you look in, earlier, we used to speak about online classes, we used to speak about e-learning, we used to speak about MOOCs. But we always used to say that a classroom teaching, a connect between the teacher and a student is very much required for an effective learning. But the COVID pandemic situation says we need to go for online classes. And the paradigm shift has come in the education sector. So which says that we need to use ICT. So before getting into the effective utilization of the ICT and mapping ICT with the Bloom's taxonomy levels, let us understand the current infrastructural and the educational scenario in the country. The first point to remember is our students are technology native, but as a faculty, we are technology migrant. We are able to see the school children, students, there are gadgets, electronic gadgets in their hand, and they can effectively use it than us. We started adapting technology, but they were growing with the technology. This is one of the points to be remembered. And moving on to the second point, now the world is experiencing ubiquitous learning. What does this ubiquitous learning says? In short, people call it as U-learning. It's nothing but learning on the go. Ubiquitous learning says learning is not going to happen only in the classroom, but learning is going to happen everywhere. Moving on, when we speak about learning through technology or learning using technology, it also has developed over the years, beginning with e-learning. So where we used to see a digital library in our campuses, having a networked computers, having a server loaded with some e-books, and students use it to access it, or computers connected to an internet, and e-books available on the web they use to access. Moving further, mobile learning has come, where the handheld, remotely connected, wireless connected devices, by the access of the internet, by the access of the servers, the students started learning. So the difference between the e-learning and mobile learning is e-learning, student has to move to the location where the computer is, but coming to the mobile learning, the device moves with the student or the learner, and learner can start learning everywhere. But the technology uses has further improved, and today people are using context-aware learning, nothing but we call it as a ubiquitous learning. What does this context-aware learning says? The technology has improved in such a way, the technology understands the learning mode of the students and adapts the learning accordingly. So we call this as adaptive learning. So understanding the student mode, student learning expectations, the relevant context, and the relevant topic, the relevant way of explanation comes to the student, and we call it as the context-aware learning, and nothing but we call it as a U-learning, or it is nothing but a ubiquitous learning. Now, when we speak about use of technology in students' learning, so we have e-learning in place, we have mobile learning in place, and we have context-aware or the ubiquitous learning in place. As a teacher, we need to develop electronic content of our course. And when we develop an electronic content of the course, the major goal is the student has to learn. And for that, we need to move towards the context-aware or ubiquitous learning strategy. And moving on to the next point, as I already mentioned, most of the learning is happening outside the classroom than inside the classroom. And now, being technology teachers, when we groom, when we train our students, we always we'll look at the expectations of the industry. The earlier industry expectations are, they used to expect the student ready with the required knowledge, required skill set. And the industry used to train them. But the scenario has changed. The current industry expectation says students should be ready with the experience while on the campus. So it says learning and experience both should happen while on the campus itself. And moving further, slowly, every educational institution, every teacher started adapting the use of ICT. But when we say use of ICT, mostly the preferred ICT strategies, ICT mechanisms, or the tools are the PowerPoint presentation and playing short videos in the classroom. Most teachers use them. But when the faculty started using these ICT basic technologies or the basic tools, the major complaints from the students are faculties are reading the slides. And most faculties are not actually summarizing what exactly is displayed in the slide. And there is no summarization or the discussion on the videos that are played. Faculty will play a short video. And once the video is done, there is no brainstorming session. There is no summarization on what exactly happened in the video. These are the basic complaints the teachers or the institutions started receiving from the students. So it says that more effective mechanism is required for the effective use of ICT in our teaching. And now, as I already mentioned, the current pandemic situation says, we need to maintain social distancing, for which we need to go for the blended learning, we need to go for e-learning or u-learning, which says every educational institution is in need of an IT services department. And they require an officer for education technology. No doubt to say, if an institution do not adapt this, an institution will be in notice period. Moving further, so to understand the digital blooms, to understand the Bloom's taxonomy, we all need to have some basic understanding of outcome-based education, which in short we call it as OBE. What exactly the OBE speaks about? OBE speaks about design or define an outcome. An outcome is nothing but a statement which says a student or the learner is going to acquire by the end of the course, by the end of the program, or by the end of the session. And we call this as outcome-based education, where the complete focus is on the outcomes that were defined. So now when I speak about an outcome is defined for a session. An outcome is defined for a course. An outcome is defined for a program as well. And outcomes are defined even for a university, which we call it as a vision and mission. And the basic difference over here is the outcomes are always student focused, learner focused, not teacher focused. And if you look at this slide, the slide gives an overall understanding of the outcome-based education. We can see the hierarchy, which starts with an institution mission, then PEOs, PLOs, CLOs. Then here it says a course, program, university. And OB says that plan something, do something, evaluate it, how it is going, and if not, plan and improve strategy. And this goes, regressively. And in short, this is all about the outcome-based education. And I hope Many of you have already have an idea of what outcome-based education is. And as already mentioned, outcome-based education completely depends on the outcomes defined. So today, as I said, I'm going to explain about the digital blooms. I'm going to explain about the Bloom's taxonomy. The Bloom's taxonomy is a framework which defines the learning levels of a graduate, the learning levels of a learner. So how do we specify the learning level? So as I already mentioned about outcome, an outcome we define by using a Bloom's verb. Every learning level can be defined by using some set of action verbs. And that particular action verb in that particular learning outcome, may a course, may a program, may a session, will make it clear to the learner as well as a teacher the extent to which the topic has to be delivered. And here, when I'm speaking about an outcome, the outcome will guide the teacher on what to teach. An outcome will guide the learner on what to learn. An outcome will guide us on what kind of assessment has to be done to assess the student learning of the particular course, of the particular session, or of the particular program. So moving further, I just want to introduce few ICT tools. I'm not going to enter in detail about them because we have a specific session, maybe tomorrow, I think, on ICT tools. The basic ICT tools which we use are the PowerPoint presentation, videos, LMS stands for Learning Management Systems, simulation tools, animations, Google Drive. And to say every teacher, for every teacher, these are available either as an open source or if you are available with an operating system itself or our email accounts itself. And when I speak about an ICT tool, as a teacher, we teach. As a teacher, we assess. As a teacher, we share material. As a teacher, we want to create our own videos. We want to create our own, code snippets. So, as a teacher, we use ICT tools for presenting our lectures, for assessing, for sharing the material, or connecting to the student beyond the classroom. As I already mentioned, for creating our own videos. These are the few of the tools, open source tools available in the market, which as a teacher you can use. So moving further, the current day, speaking about ubiquitous learning, speaking about at least the mobile learning, the learning management system plays a vital role. As a teacher, we always engage the student in a class for about 50 minutes. But as I said, most of the learning is happening outside the classroom. The question comes is, how do we connect to the student? So we can connect to the student by using the learning management system. There are a lot of learning management systems available like Google Classroom, Edmodo, Google Docs, spreadsheets, etc., by using which we can connect to the student beyond our classroom. And the only requirement is they need to have a computing machine with an internet, or even in most cases, the mobile support. And as a teacher, when you start using the learning management system, definitely you can adapt the blended learning in your own course. So moving further, before understanding the digital blooms, I want to narrate two different classroom scenarios which makes us clear, which makes us an understanding how classroom goes up. There is a classroom, say consider scenario A, where the teaching style is stand and deliver, which is passive. The faculty goes on teaching and the students passively sits and listens to them. And the learning style is auditory. The faculty speaks and faculty writes on the blackboard or the reads whatever is there in the presentation, something, etc. And even students write it. And the students' involvement, as I mentioned, is passive, which is nothing but information acquisition. So they just, listen what exactly the teacher is trying to teach. And here, what is exactly happening? The faculty speaks about the content. The faculty speaks about the processes. And in this scenario, a faculty may use technology. It is nothing but a faculty might speak about some technology, or a faculty might use technology for teaching. So it is nothing but we call teaching with technology. This is a scenario, say classroom A. Moving down, let us consider there is another classroom B. This is another scenario where the teaching style is the project and problem based, which is the constructionist. What it says is the teacher has already given the basic prerequisite knowledge to the student through LMS. Student has already learned at home, and in the classroom, the teacher started discussing about a project. The teacher started discussing about a problem, how to solve the particular problem. And the learning style is multiple learning styles and multiple intelligence. It's nothing but various activities will be performed in the class. The problem is given to the groups of the students, and the student starts working on that. Students start brainstorming on them, and finally they come out with some solutions. So here, coming to the student involvement, it is active because they participate in developing the content, in evaluating the process. And the technology can be used here, but the technology is used not for delivering, but is used for the transformative in the sense, say, for developing the projects, say, for solving the problems, or for getting solutions. So we call this as learning through technology. In the earlier scenario, it is nothing but learning with the technology. Now the scenario says it is learning through technology. So for an improved learning, for an effective learning, wherein the faculty starts learning. So these are the two different classroom scenarios. Now I had a poll question. As a faculty, recall the characteristics of classroom A and classroom B. And according to you, which classroom is more useful for student learning? Either classroom A or B, or both are equally good. You might receive a link in YouTube for posting your poll question. Prasad Reddy sir, are you there? Hello?
Okay, sir, keeping, sir, keeping.
You are keeping. Yeah, you have 2 minutes of time. You can post your poll question. Is the link posted?
Yes, sir.
Are you receiving polls?
Yes, sir, getting, sir.
Yeah. So now the time is 10:54. We'll stop the poll at 10:56. Just let me know the percentage of option A, option B, and option C.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Meanwhile, are there any questions in chat box?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So please post that link in Telegram as well.
Yes, sir. Posted, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prasad, and I think you can post that result also, poll result also.
Yes, sir.
So shall we stop here, sir? Wait for a few more polls. Wait for a minute.
Yes, sir. We'll wait for 1 more minute.
Okay. So just as I already discussed, scenario A and scenario B, as a teacher, recall. And what do you suggest? Either classroom A, classroom B, or both are equally good? Prasad Reddy, please share the poll results.
Yes, sir.
So here is this. This is it says that around 56. Please scroll down. Around 56% of the people says both are equally good, and 25% of the people says classroom B is good, and 18.8% of the participants says classroom A option is good. Thank you. Let us stop responses here.
Okay, sir. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. So, having an understanding of the poll questions, so the limitations of classroom A is it is actually a teacher-centric, and the whole classroom is bounded around the content. It is nothing but just content focused, and it is assessment focused. Says that this is the prescribed syllabus, prescribed content, and it is delivered, and this content has to be assessed. And predominantly, it gives a lower order thinking to the students. And in short, to say, it is a timetable learning with a homework. And when we move to the classroom B scenario, as I said, it is learning through technology. It is active in nature, which is student-centric, and the learning focus is process-oriented with embedded content. As I mentioned, the classroom B scenario is the student learns at home. The basics are the fundamentals or the prerequisites required. And in the class, that he or she actually works on the problems, works on the project, which is nothing but the process-oriented with embedding the content they have learned at home. And definitely it gives higher order thinking skills, because working on a project, working on a problem starts from apply to analysis to evaluate, etc. And definitely The classroom B scenario will give an higher order thinking skills. And anywhere, anytime learning can be done through the transformative use of technology. So these are advantages of the classroom B scenario. As a teacher, when we become fully equipped in implementing the various active strategies in the classroom, in implementing the blended learning, and when we are capable of using technology for the transformation of learning, definitely we feel that the classroom B scenario is advantageous, which is student-centric and which improves the students' learning. So moving further to understand, so what is the need of the hour? We need to switch from classroom A scenario, which is a traditional scenario, to the classroom B scenario, which is nothing but a 21st century classroom, which is nothing but the student-centric classroom. But how do we switch to the 21st century teaching? It's nothing but we need to see that the students use digital tools for their learning. So that is nothing but the transformative use of technology is the need of the hour. So now, when we look at the student, as I already mentioned in my beginning slides, a student is technology native. We are able to see that they're using multiple social media sources, multimedia sources. They're able to do parallel processing, multitasking with the tools. And we are able to see them on WhatsApp, we are able to see them on Google Chat, they're using YouTube, they're using Facebook, they're using Twitter, and we can see that they are networked with many of the tools. And now, as a teacher, how do we see that these particular technologies, these particular tools, and rest of the specific tools available can be embedded into their learning? Here, the greatest advantage with the 21st century learner is they are comfortable in virtual and real spaces. We could see that, students sitting in the class and listening to us, and students sitting before a mobile or a laptop and listening to the lectures, they are comfortable in both the aspects. And learning is relevant and instantly useful and fun for them. It's always a fun. Learning is a fun for them. So, for that, as I already mentioned, before getting into the digital blooms, we need to have an understanding of the active learning. So active learning says student actually engages in a meaningful learning activity in the class. They do brainstorming, they do evaluate, they do analyze the content, they come up with solutions, they express their views instead of just sitting passive and listening to us and writing a homework at the home. He actually gets engaged, and we call it as an active learning. And when we speak about active learning, we need to see that the collaborative learning happens in the class. What does this again collaborative learning says? In a class, say, typical Indian classrooms are of capacity of 60. So we need to divide the students into some groups, and each group works on the given topic or the chosen topic. They brainstorm among themselves, and they finally come up with a conclusion, and they just speak out their conclusion in the class, which is nothing but active engagement of the class, that is a student, teacher, and everyone in the classroom. And this is all nothing but an active learning, and we need to see that this happens, and we need to see that the technology can be used here for doing this active learning and the collaborative learning. So moving further, so to have this active learning continue, so what we need to do? So as a teacher, we need to see that whether we need to reveal the students the current knowledge. So we are in a class now, or we need to discuss the prerequisite knowledge. Our student is going to learn the prerequisite knowledge on their own. That understanding we need to have. And we need to direct their attention to a problem or the issue. This has to be done by every teacher. Now, when I'm saying about a 21st century classroom, in the 21st century classroom, we need to see that the student, the learner, pays their attention on a problem or an issue on which the session has to go on. And we need to see that why they should care about a certain topic. We need to tell them clear. So this, when we could look at all these particular questions, definitely we can make the students' learning happen at the higher order levels. Here, because the first point which we are looking at is about the students' current knowledge. Is it required to be discussed in the class? Can be given as an session at home, topic at home, learning at home, and how do we see that they pay attention on the problem of the project, and why they really required to work on that particular problem. So moving forward, as I already mentioned, what kind of activities and considerations, discussions, or other engagement might move them from where they are. So this, as a teacher, we need to see that, when I speak about active learning, there is a paper on the name of some Peterson, I think, and which says around 23 active learning strategies are there, and many more has come in, further as well. So what kind of strategy we have to use, what kind of activity we have to use, and what kind of discussions has to happen, so that we need to plan. So for taking the student attention on the particular project or the problem which we plan to discuss. And how will you engage students in this consideration? But how much time? What is the turnaround time? Everything, we need to clearly focus. And what will they think about, do engage with? So while this activity is going on, as a teacher, you need to know that, so what kind of thinking is going to happen? What kind of conclusions are the students going to come? So now, as I said, active learning should happen along with the collaborative learning. So as a teacher, you need to know that how this activity can be carried out. So whether we can have a big groups in a class or a small groups in a class, a group can have 4 people, 2 people, 10 people, so that we need to have a clear understanding. And now we need to consider how partners and groups interact. So interaction between the groups or interaction within the group, how it is going to happen. So everything as a teacher, you need to be clear about. So these points make you clear on how to actively engage the student. What parameters to be considered when you want to actively engage a student in a classroom. So now, moving on to our actual concept, that is a Bloom's taxonomy. As I already discussed, Bloom's taxonomy is a learning framework which explains us, which makes us clear about the skill set learning level of the student. And when we speak about a Bloom's taxonomy learning, it is available, it is provided in 3 different domains. The first one is a cognitive domain, the second one is an affective domain, and the third one is the psychomotor domain. And mostly we use the cognitive domain. Rest, we are not going to practice much in our OBE education, but they also play an equal role. So I will take few minutes to explain each domain. So every domain is having various learning levels, starting from lower order thinking skills at the learning levels to the higher order thinking skills at the learning levels. So coming to the cognitive, as it tells, what a student really thinks, what a student really absorbs. So which we call it as a cognitive in nature. It starts with remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So the learning level says remembering nothing but, the existing whatever he knows. If he is able to remember, we all say that we got independence in 1947, which is nothing but a remembering. And the next learning level says it's understanding. Understanding is nothing but, able to express something about that. We say that we are in an independent country. What does that independence mean? If he or she is able to explain, means they have an understanding of independence. Then comes the next level, that is applying. Applying in the sense when we are able to apply what exactly we know. So applying in the sense for a given question, when we apply a formula, it is nothing but an applying. Next moves on analyzing. Analyzing says whatever we applied, we get some result, and when we have more number of results or whatever the result which we get, we are able to justify it. We are able to say that the system is really performing well, or the system is not really performing well, or the formula is really doing good or not. A kind of comparison, a kind of analysis we do on whatever we get, and we call it as an analyzing. Next moves on evaluating, saying that whether it is working well or not, or whether the performance has improved or not, saying that's nothing but an evaluating of a particular problem, a particular project, a particular concept, etc. Moving further is creating. That is nothing but doing something on their own, which is not existing before, in which we call it as an higher order thinking skills. And we could see that in the recent years, people are speaking about innovation. And innovation is going to drive the nation. Innovation is going to solve the unemployment problem in the country, which says that the graduates or the learners has to learn at the highest level, that is nothing but the creating level. Moving further on, the next triangle, the next diagram speaks about the affective domain. Affective domain says, starting with receiving is nothing but listening. The next level says responding. So listening and responding back, expressing what they have learned, what they have listened is nothing but responding. Moving further is value. Value is nothing but accepting what someone says, accepting a role, accepting a homework, accepting an assignment, accepting a team leader is nothing but a valuing. And moving further, higher order, next higher order is organization. Organization is nothing but they already know, they value their roles, they value the given assignment, and lot of information is available, lot of data is available in various spaces, in various domains. If they could organize all of them together and could finally come up with a solution, we call it as organization. And finally, the higher level of affective skill set is characterization. If some individual is able to control themselves, if some individual is able to control on a given role, control on a given policy, and could continue, we call it as a characterization. And these are the various skill set levels or the learning levels in the affective domain. Moving further on, the third domain says psychomotor domain. Psychomotor in the sense nothing but, what we can do manually. Some physical movement in an object is nothing but a psychomotor domain. And it starts with an imitation. Imitations in the sense, looking at someone doing and implementing the same is nothing but imitating. Doing mime is an imitation. Doing mimicry is an imitation. Moving to the next level, that is a manipulation. When you are given with a handout, when you are given with a manual, by looking at the manual, if you are able to perform something, we call it as an manipulation. Next comes is precision. Precision in the sense, it's nothing but when we are able to adjust to the errors of that particular object, adjust to the performance of that particular object, adjust the performance of the object is nothing but a precision. Moving further on, we call it as articulating. Articulating in the sense, so when we could have multiple parts, putting them all together, putting the final outcome remains same, and changing the internal architecture is nothing but called as articulation. When we could do that, the final outcome remains same, but we could modify the internal architecture. And finally, coming with a naturalization, which says that doing something on your own, you become the master of doing something, and which do not require any manual, which do not require any further learning. We call it as a naturalization. So these are the three different, the Bloom's taxonomy domains, and majorly we are going to focus on the first one, and which is nothing but the cognitive domain. And now, from the next slides, I will try to correlate the cognitive Bloom's taxonomy domain to the digital tools, and which I named it as the digital Bloom's taxonomy. So, moving further, as I already mentioned, starting with the lower order to the higher order, which is nothing but remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Now, I speak about the digital Bloom's taxonomy. The difference is, just I am moving back to my earlier slide, which says lower order thinking skills, higher order thinking skills, and the learning levels remain same. When I move up, now I am saying instead of skills, I am naming them as activity. Lower order learning activity, and moving further, which is nothing but the higher order learning activity. So now we are going to see that how students use ICT effectively for achieving a particular learning goal for the Bloom's taxonomy learning level. So moving further, the digital Bloom's taxonomy says, what kind of learning activities are we required to do for a particular digital Bloom's level? When I speak about remembering, as I already mentioned, we need to plan an activity by which student is able to recognize, listen, describe, identify, retrieve, name, locate, or find. In the same way, when we speak about understanding, you have defined your course outcome or session outcome at understanding level, and you are required to use an ICT. And we need to see that student use the particular ICT tool to interpret, to summarize, to infer, to paraphrase, or to classify, to compare, or to explain, or to to exemplify the topic. Moving further, if the particular session outcome or the course outcome speaks about applying, we need to see that the topic that he has learned. Moving further is analyzing, which speaks about by using an ICT, he is able to compare, he is able to organize, he is able to deconstruct, or he is able to attribute, outline, or he is able to find the best outcome or the best solution, or he is able to structure or integrate. Moving further is evaluate, where use an ICT tool for checking or hypothesizing or experimenting or judging, testing, detecting, etc. Moving further is creating, construct something by using some technology or by using some tool, and the learning activities has to be planned for which various technologies and tools has to be used, which we are going to see in detail. So moving with the very first one, which speaks about remembering. So if you people want to teach a concept at the learning level to a graduate, to a student, how we can use an ICT? In simple, this is an example which says the technology tool to be used is a labeled image. Use the PowerPoint presentation, and on the PowerPoint presentation, use an image and which is labeled. And the learning activity is students should be able to list or identify the parts. They need to say that if here, on the slide, we could see a bicycle, and the bicycle, various parts are labeled. We can just put a bicycle and we can ask the students to label the parts. They keep on labeling it. And once everything is done, then we can show a labeled image. Okay, so this is the way, how we can do a remembering activity in the class. This is an example, like you can plan many. A labeled image is such a plan, is such an, activity, so that can be implemented in a class for the remembering level. So for remembering, so what are the learning outcomes to be planned and what it can be done? So for the remembering, we can have a bullet pointing, we can have highlighting, we can have bookmarking, we can have searching, we can have note taking. So now if you want to have your learning outcome as bullet pointing, how it can be done? It's nothing but, having a PowerPoint. The another tools available is mind map, flashcards, glossary, etc. where whatever the points the students could remember can be listed out as the bulletin points. So the next tool available is highlighting. Use a word processor or a PDF document, and what you could recall, what you could remember, just highlight it. There is a highlighter available, right? And then bookmarking. So whatever you want to remember or whatever you remembered, you can always bookmark, for which the tools available is Ggo, Delicious, Site You Like. And the next is the searching. Use your search engines and you can start searching the topic which you could remember. And the next technology tool or the method for learning is note taking. So where we have the tools like Evernote, Google Keep, Quip, OneNote, ThinkPad, Simple Note, etc. So now, when I'm speaking about the digital Bloom's taxonomy, the lowest level of learning is remembering. And if you want to teach the remembering and use technology for the learning transformation, these are the activities that can be planned, and these are the tools that can be used for the specific learning to happen. So moving on to the next level is understanding. And for a learner to understand what kind of technology tool we can use, ICT tool, it's nothing but playing a video. And what is the learning activity that can be done? It's simple. We can, once the video is played, we can ask the students to explain a content, to summarize the content. I saw it one place where they play movie of the month, which is an understanding learning level. A video is played, a movie is played, and after the movie, students will summarize. There will be some questions raised, and students are going to answer. In simple, this is the technology tool used for understanding level. It's nothing but video, and a simple example is the NPTEL videos, which we listen. So now, for understanding what kind of activities we can do, what kind of other tools we can use. So we can have an advanced search, we can do blogging, we can do commenting, we can do annotating, we can do subscribing. So now what does this advanced search says? I said for remembering we do Google Search, and for advanced search, someone. So for the advanced search, we use Boolean searches. Boolean searches is nothing but, I hope you know that we can use and or, when two different topics, we can combine two different topics by using an and operator, or we can, combine by using a plus operator as well. And Google searches by combining both. Even we can use an or operator, Google searches either of them. So we call it as an advanced search. And we can do this. So when we are able to understand it, blogging. So when we understand something, you can write a content. You can speak about the particular topic. You can write a paragraph on that, which we call it is nothing but a blogging. And for blogging, we can use Blogger, WordPress, or Tumblr, etc. And when we understand, we can comment on the concept. We can comment on the topic, for which we can use a Twitter, we can use MS Word, we can use notice boards, forums, threaded discussions, etc. And which is nothing but commenting. And next, we can always do annotation. Is nothing but annotation is nothing but we can say again commenting on existing text. The earlier one says commenting at a different place. The text will be at a different place and the commenting will be done at a different place. But annotation says commenting at the place of the text, and which can be done by using Acrobat Reader, Jotero, or Mendeley, or Ink20. The next one is nothing but subscribing. When you are able to understand, we can correlate the concept at one location to the another location. That is nothing but we can do aggregating of the news, and which can be done by RSS feeds, news aggregators, etc. And these are the various technology tools or the methods which we can use when we have framed a learning outcome and which is at an understanding level. And moving further is applying. So when we want the student to use the technology for applying the concept that they have learned, a simple example over here is the technology tool is usage is nothing but uses Excel. What kind of learning activity we can do? We can ask them to calculate We can ask them to summarize. We can ask them to represent by using the available formula, macros on the particular data. This is nothing but they are able to apply. An example, what we can do is give an Excel sheet to the students having a pre-written formula or macros, and student enters the data and sees the results and analysis. A simple way of application of the concept they have already learned. So not just the Excel, there are many other tools available which can be used where the student can apply the knowledge that they have learned. And this is a simple way of making the student learn at applying level by using some ICT technology tool. So understanding deeper about the applying digital Bloom's level, what can be done? We can plan an activity where running, loading, and operating can be done, playing can be done, hacking can be done, uploading can be done, sharing can be done, editing can be done. So applying means where they can install an application, install a software, install an operating system, and this is nothing but they are able to apply. Playing, they are able to play a visualization tool, simulation, and seconds life, etc. Playing is nothing but there is some simulator available. We input some data, and based on particular data, the system performs. It's a simulation, and we can have a visualization, etc. This is nothing but applying because the student is able to supply the right input. What is exactly the input that has to be supplied for the visualization to be played, simulation to be played? It's nothing but an applying. Hacking, when the student is able to hack the application, hack the particular data, hack the particular service, for which we have tools available like Armitage, Wi-Fi, social engineering toolkit, etc. And for applying, Google Drive, Google Forms, Google Sharing Sheets is a very simple tool available by using which students can apply the content they have learned. So it's nothing but the tools available is either a Google Drive can be used, Dropbox can be used, as Sugar Sync can be. These are the various tools available. Please, faculty, do not think that this majorly focused to the computer science. We can always correlate to your own course, to your own domain here. And editing. So when applying is nothing but when we are able to modify the existing content, modify the existing program, modify the existing architecture diagram, etc., which nothing but comes under editing, and where we can use an MS Word, where we can use a Photoshop, where we can use a Pixlr or a LibreOffice Writer, etc. These are the various activities that can be planned when you have your learning outcome at the apply level, and these are the various tools available for each and every learning activity at applying level to teach the students with the digital Bloom's level. So moving further is analyzing. So analyzing in the sense where the student is able to differentiate, where the learner is able to compare and say which is right, which is wrong, comes to a conclusion. And here, for example, we have a technology tool and with name PHET simulation games. You can people search on Google, and the PHET simulation games are available for various courses, majorly for mathematics, physics, chemistry, the basic engineering courses, etc., on the various course contents. And the learning activity is nothing but finding and integrating. So we always speak about if, as a computer science guy, performance of two different algorithms, comparison between two searching algorithms, comparison between two sorting algorithms, a graduate can do. That's nothing but an analysis for which a graduate will open a sorting algorithm, supply the data, can see the time complexity, can see how much iterations it require, and can again do the same on another sorting algorithm, and can do an analysis, can come to a conclusion which one is the best. And this definitely improves the student learning because he is able to analyze the algorithms on his own, instead thinking about an earlier mechanism where we use a PPT, we execute, and student just looks at. So PHET simulation games are widely popular. are available, as I said, are available for many courses, and it is an open source available, and which is going to help the learner learn at analyzing learning level. So understanding more about the analyzing learning level and planning the learning outcomes for analyzing, we can do mashing, we can plan surveying, we can plan linking, we can plan tagging, we can also plan reverse engineering. What does this mashing says? Mashing is nothing but integrating. So for which we have Google Maps, Google Earth. These are the tools that are available by using which we can do mashing and analyzing always, as I said, a comparison differentiation for which we are required to do some sort of surveying, for which Google Forms can be used, SurveyMonkey can be used, and there are a lot of online survey technologies and the tools available. And linking, the linking activity can be done where databases can be used, like MS Excel, Access, or the spreadsheets can be used. If you're not of computer science, you're not proficient enough to use databases, then you can use spreadsheets, where Excel helps in comparing. Excel helps in identifying the differentiations, knowing the macro formulas. So this is the learning activity that can be planned, and these are the tools that can be used. The next one is about tagging. For the tagging, we can use Evernote, we can use tablets. These are the tools available. What does again tagging says? When we could analyze, we give a tag saying that, giving nothing but like reviews. We say a particular product is the best. We say a particular product is not the best one. So what is we are doing? Actually, we are tagging a review to a particular product. And that can be done by using the tools like Evernote, tables, etc. And the next one is about reverse engineering. So reverse engineering is again an analyzing. And in the reverse engineering, what does reverse engineering says? There is some product available, and which is an outcome. By looking at the particular product, develop a similar one, we call it as a... Yes, sir.
I think in video, I think in YouTube, your PPTs are not visible.
Oh.
I think thank you for downloading video downloader ane vachindi, but it's ask Ganesh.
Ganesh, are you there online? Ganesh? Hello.
సార్ కాల్ చేస్తున్నాను సార్. సార్ ఎవరితోనో మాట్లాడుతున్నారు.
Yeah.
I think for the last 2 minutes, that PPT is not displayed.
Okay.
యూట్యూబ్ లో స్ట్రీమింగ్ అయిపోయింది సార్ అది.
Yes.
ఓకే సార్.
Rajnikant, wait for 1 minute.
Yes, sir. I'm waiting, sir.
సార్ చెప్పాను సార్, ఇప్పుడే చూస్తున్నారు సార్.
Rajendra, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay.
సార్ ఇప్పుడు ట్రై చేయండి సార్, వస్తుంది సార్.
Now it is there?
ఎస్ సార్, వస్తుంది సార్, ఇప్పుడు చూడండి.
Is it visible on YouTube?
1 minute.
హలో సార్.
There is a 2 minutes or 3 minutes delay, right?
2 minutes అయింది సార్, ఆగిపోయారు.
Yes, proceed, Rajnikant.
ఓకే సార్, ఇప్పుడు వస్తుంది.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Yeah, so let me begin with analyzing, to teach the student for the analyzing learning outcome, we can plan various learning outcomes with mashing, surveying, linking, tagging, or reverse engineering, or even we can call it as refactoring also. So how do we do mashing? The tools that are available is nothing but Google Maps, Google Earth, etc. Mashing is nothing but integrating from multiple sources. And we can do always surveying. For the surveying, we can use Google Forms or SurveyMonkey, etc. So analyzing always requires a kind of differentiation, a kind of comparison, so which can be done by using Google Forms and surveys, etc. We can do linking, linking one data to the other data. That can be done by using databases. If you know databases, we can use MySQL, Access database, Oracle, etc. And if you are not proficient with the databases, you can always use spreadsheets and Excel, Calci, etc. And Excel helps us in comparison with the help of macros, which is a free tool, can be used. And the another one is we can always tag. For tagging, we can use Evernote, tables, etc. Tagging is nothing but for a particular concept, for a particular solution. You can always mention your view, saying that it's whether it's the best, whether it's the wrong, whatever exactly. We can always tag, like nothing but doing reviewing, and even reverse engineering. As I said, reverse engineering is nothing but doing refactoring. So there is some product available, and the product is nothing but a final outcome product. And by looking at that, if you could develop one more, so doing it completely reverse engineering. So we can always use the tools like Boomerang, JAR, OliDBG, etc. These are the various tools, and all the tools which I'm speaking here are open source tools, are the tools available on internet for non-commercial usage. So these are the various analyzing learning outcomes which we can use for digital blooms. Moving further is evaluating. So to plan a learning outcome at an evaluate level, the technology tool that can be used is MS Word, and the learning activity is reviewing. So evaluating in the sense, in analyzing, I mentioned we put a comment, but we are not sure about it. But in evaluating, we say that, what we mention is, right, accurate. So we are able to evaluate it. We are able to justify, we are able to judge. And the example is reviewing an assignment report. Here, there is an image which says that there is an introduction topic, and the evaluation is done and the required comments are mentioned. So which is a learning activity at the evaluating level. So moving further in detail, the learning outcomes that can be planned is commenting, reviewing, posting, moderating, networking, refactoring again, and testing. So for commenting and posting, we can always use Blogspot, Facebook, Moodle Forum, etc. For reviewing the articles, we can use MS Word, Reviewer Board, Collaborator, etc. For moderating, we can always use Moodle Forum. So always, the moderating has come in evaluating, but is not available at analyzing. So here, different people are in different opinions, but as an evaluator, you are going to moderate by looking at their opinions and say, finally, this is the conclusion. So that's what moderating activity. And then comes is networking. So we can always evaluate by networking that an email list or a LinkedIn or a Facebook can be used for that one. Again, refactoring, as I already said, having a final output, and we can do reverse engineering. But by doing that, we come up with the best one than the existing one, for which we can always use Eclipse. Eclipse is a tool which can be used for refactoring or re-engineering existing applications. Sharp Develop or CodeRush or Express are the various tools available. Similar way, there are many other tools available for mechanical, for their simulation, animation, etc. We can also do testing. Evaluate is nothing but we are going to check its correctness, for which various testing tools available like Wireshark, Snort, Metasploit, etc. And these are the various learning outcomes that can be planned, and these are the various tools that can be used to teach the students at that particular learning level. And finally, the higher order learning level is creating. And an example activity is portfolio creation. And the technology tool that can be used is Wiki. We can ask the students to use Wiki and ask them to create their own portfolio, which is nothing but doing something on their own at a higher level. And learning in detail about creating, the learning outcomes that can be planned are, we can ask the learner to program, we can ask them to fill in, we can ask them to animate, we can ask them to blog, wikiing, publishing, video casting, podcasting, or modeling. So these are the various learning activities that can be planned, and for each of the learning outcome, the various tools that are available is for programming, we can use Scratch, Alice, Visual Studio, Lego Mindstorm, and many more. For filming or animating, we can use a movie maker, Animoto or Pencil, etc. For blogging, as I already mentioned, we have Blogger, Moodle forums, wikis and wiki spaces. For publishing the content, as it is your own unique content, we can always use Word, OWriter, Mixbook, Portfolio Box, or some conferences or journals, etc. And video cast or podcast, where you have your own recorded video which we want to podcast and which is a unique and not plagiarized. We can always use VoiceThread, we can use Skype or Illuminate, etc. And we can always model, come up with an unique infra, unique architecture for which always we can use SketchUp. Blender is another tool so popularly used open source for modeling activity. So these are the various digital tools that can be used for mapping the learning outcomes at the create level. And hope you could understand that use of ICT means not just using either a presentation or a video. A tool has to be used effectively by mapping to the particular learning outcome that is planned. And I hope if you go with the learning levels from remembering to the creating, you could see that some tools are even used at various levels. Moodle is a tool which is used at understanding as well as used at evaluating also. So the way we use the particular tool to improve the student learning is what makes learning very effective. So finally, my recommendations are, please tie the use of the tool to the specific learning content and outcome. And this is always going to help you in using the technology for the learning transformation. If a tool is not mapped to the learning outcome, definitely there will be some vacuum gap between the learner and the facilitator. And always give the students an opportunity to first gain exposure to the tool before the assignment. So now you have planned a learning outcome and you decided to use a particular tool to see that the students' learning happens at the particular learning level. But before that, we need to see that the students are aware of that particular tool. So you need to explain how the tool has to be used, the navigation of the tool, the shortcuts of the tool, etc. And once the complete class is comfortable with the tool, we can always use the tool for the assignment. And this has to be done only once, and the tool can be used repeatedly. So please provide help manuals and tutorials on using the tool. So when you plan your course, you always have your own session plan. And at that time only, please plan the tools that you want to use along with your sessions. And please prepare or just have the manuals or the tutorials of the particular tools and share with the students. As I already mentioned, the students are tech native. They can easily learn or they will easily adapt to that particular tool. And moving further, the final recommendation is provide mechanisms for the students to get feedback from peers, teaching assistants, and lecturer. So this feedback will always help you whether the tool can be used in further classes or not to be used, etc. These are my recommendations as a teacher. So when you want to use ICT tools for the digital blooms. So with this, I end my session. Thank you all. And now I am open for queries. Prasad Reddy sir and Naishwara sir, please moderate if any queries. Questions from the audience.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, sir.
I could see one question now. Someone mentioned which technology tools are free. Whatever the tools I am speaking about, all the tools are open source. Are the tools available for non-commercial use? And most of the participants are asking about the presentation, and the complete video will be available on YouTube afterwards for re-listening to the session.
Sir, they're asking explanation about affective domain.
Explanation about affective domain. Yeah. Coming to this affective Bloom's domain, it says it's nothing but a domain which is associated with the emotions, which is nothing but associated with the feelings, appreciation, motivation, etc. As an individual, when we learn something, we also have some feelings, emotions. We appreciate something. We express something, right? All this actually comes under the affective domain. So we show our attitude. Okay, so all this comes under the affective domain of the Bloom's taxonomy. Hope I answered. It's a domain associated with feelings. Yeah.
Rajnikant,
Sir.
which is the best and latest tool that is helpful for language learners?
So you mentioned about programming.
Maybe.
Yeah, for program learning, and now, yes, for computer science people, in this pandemic situation, you are teaching a programming course and you want to ensure that your students are practicing, say, Java, C++, etc., or Python, etc. We have online notebooks available like Google Colab, and where you can share your screen with the students and students can share their screen with you, and which can happen online in collaborative way. You can always, by using Google Colab, you can give an assignment to a group of students, and a group of students, by sitting at their home, can work on a common code. And as a facilitator, you can interrupt, you can get into that particular code and you can explain them. And you can solve their queries also. And a very efficient open source tool available to teach programming. There is a Jupyter notebook, even that is available online. Hope I answered the question.
Yes.
Someone is speaking about a feedback. Feedback will be available on the last day for all these sessions. And that's all about feedback.
Ajni link means?
Sir?
They're asking Ajni link. What do you mean with the Ajni link?
Where, sir?
Yeah, feedback link they're asking.
Yeah, feedback link. They're asking feedback link.
Yeah.
The feedback link will put on that YouTube as well as on the web page. There will be a link available, and they can give the feedback on the last day.
Okay.
Sir, hope if no queries, lend.
Okay, Rajnikant.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Rajnikant, for a wonderful session.
Thank you, sir.
The feedback which I got from YouTube is very good. Many people are saying it's a wonderful and informative session, and they are asking us to share the PPTs. Then, as you told, it may not be possible, but they can see the YouTube now. This is
YouTube videos. The YouTube videos will be available forever.
Okay.
Yes, we'll share the link where we have all the bundle of all the videos for 5 days.
So, dear participants, in the afternoon session at 2 o'clock, there is one more wonderful session by Professor Rajendra. He'll be telling us in detail about how to write COs, how to map these COs to POs, Okay, the people who attended this session, they might have understood the Bloom's taxonomy. Even when you're writing COs also, you need to keep this Bloom's taxonomy also into mind while we write the COs. So Professor Rajendra, he will tell you in detail how to write COs, what is the method we follow to write COs, what is the scientific way of mapping these COs to POs. Hope that you know all POs given by the NBA. Okay, he's not going to tell anything about the POs, but definitely he will tell what webs are used in POs, what webs are to be used in COs. Okay, please don't miss the session, the afternoon session. Thank you all. Let us meet at 2 o'clock today in the afternoon session. Thank you, Rajendra. Thank you, Rajnikant.
Thank you, sir.